Hi, Linda. You're back on Astrology Alert. And
Hi, everybody.
we're here to, as usual, discuss all the burning topics of the day.
Right, and
And
also right now we're still alive and well here. Apparently Napa's having a lot of flooding.
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's what the comedians keep saying on their nightly summary, that there's rain everywhere, and which is unusual for where you are, but it's pretty much the order of the day here where I am. And
Right, but the thing is that what we're really afraid of is that the wind, because it's blowing over a lot of trees.
that's
So
true. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
once again, you're at your beautiful spot.
Yeah,
I love that background.
I know. I'm always at the top of the
It
mountain.
reminds me of my parents telling me, what they had to climb when they went to school.
Yeah. True, yeah. I'm always in my mountain, irrespective of the weather. Yeah, it's totally true.
So you were going to hit again about Biden with his classified documents. They found 5 more today at his house. It's a little, to be planted, it would be a little overkill. I read on it the other day. I wasn't seeing it planted. He had that look like a deer in the headlights. Like, I'm sure he has no clue what's there. And I also feel his staff back then weren't up on it. They weren't,
Yeah. I mean, he's probably really embarrassed because, it's just obviously not a good thing. And it does create this false equivalency with Trump's records. And so immediately the right wingers, the media, the GOP House, they all seize on it, but they're not the same. And, one of the funniest people that I saw talking about this is, this woman, Ana Navarro. She's on The View. And she's totally hilarious when she does that, that thing, rapid fire. And she basically says, yeah, I mean, they're not the same. And she outlines exactly why. And, by the way, I mean, let's face it, what's happening here, to be totally clear, is that let's say that Biden did commit a crime. Fine, then you have to prosecute him. But he's president now, so you can't. Okay, that's how this works. This is what was going on with Trump, if you remember, right? Oh, you can't prosecute the president. Okay, fine. So investigate away. And when he's not president, you can take him to court and prosecute him if a prosecutable crime. But we know that from past misdeeds, if you remember with Hillary, the reason they couldn't prosecute her, and they wouldn't, is because they couldn't find intent, right? They would say, yes, something was going on, but, she clearly wasn't doing it on purpose. And I mean, just use your common sense. Biden self-reported. That's what Ana Navarro said. He's self-reporting. His people found them and they turned them in. They had good, incentive to light a match. Hey, what records, right? That's the easiest way. They didn't do that. So to me, that's actually stellar behavior. And in a way, given the way Trump did it, it gives great contrast to this thing, right?
Oh, I know. They saw him moving this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
From one place to the other.
Exactly. And I think, if anything, in my opinion, this makes it more likely they're going to charge Trump, because now they're, the way that the right is playing it is like they're always looking for some excuse, something to muddy the waters. I think it makes it more likely that Trump goes up first for this, the fact that he took the records, he was trying to hide them. They had cameras with him moving them around the Mar-a-Lago. It's pretty clear, right? Obstruction of justice.
Also, the place that holds these records was asking him for it. They kept trying to get it back from him, and he refused. They had to go to the DOJ.
Exactly. So now there are two different special counsels. I think that, if anything, this could be a positive development. Now, at the same time, because I saw questions on my channel saying, hey, you said that after the midterms, Biden's chart was going to be okay. I said 2023. The problem is that
he's up at 50%, my friend.
Exactly right. But also the Saturn switch happens in March. Okay. And it is true that between here and March, Saturn is ripping through Biden's planets. And this is the kind of thing that happens. When you get a Saturn cycle, you get a problem. But these guys are always dealing with problems. If it isn't that, it's something else, like Putin gets out of line, or Kim Jong-un, fart somewhere, I don't know, something happens and you get a problem. That's the nature of the presidency, right? And so, yes, it's going to be there, this records thing, probably until at least April, because that's when Saturn has to clear the planets. But after that, it goes through, then it will come back here and there, but eventually it fizzles out. There's not enough for it to to grab onto. And why is that so hard to grasp? I mean, I don't think there's going to be enough there, because the most this guy can find is, hey, you shouldn't have done this. I don't know, maybe they issue a
I also
censor.
blame the records keepers because they didn't even realize they were gone.
Yeah, although that gets a little more tricky, because the thing is, Biden has the records, and how does the National Archives know? I don't know. That gets too complicated for me. I have no idea how they track those things. Maybe they need to start having a better tracking system too, you know.
Someone wrote me all disappointed about Merrick Garland, saying, I think he's a lot like Barr. I still have trust and faith in Merrick Garland.
Oh, definitely. No, definitely.
I'm not feeling him being underhanded at all. In fact, he did this. So let's clean this up and show you guys proof beyond a reasonable doubt that there was nothing untoward.
Right. No, and what one of the telltale signs of how there's so much bad faith in the Republican Party is that immediately one or more of those House members said, oh, he's appointed this her guy who is a Democrat, and they're all in on it. That was their explanation. And George Conway, one of the ex-Republicans, said, I can't make up my mind whether to call these people mendacious or stupid, because they're always doing this, right? They always find a way to create a conspiracy theory around it. This guy was appointed by Trump. So
there you go.
We're in a world where even the ones appointed by Trump, like all of a sudden, Christopher Wray, who, by the way, was Chris Christie's lawyer, is a total Republican, right? And appointed by Trump as, oh, he's the greatest guy. Now he's corrupt. He's a communist, basically, in their eyes. Yeah. So, I mean, it just never ends. And all you can do is
the judges appointed by Trump that vote against him, they're corrupt.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the thing is to me, this records thing, yes, it's obviously better if it hadn't happened. I'm aware of that, right? But, the fact is, if it has to be prosecuted, the way I'd say it is, great, okay, fine. I mean, when he leaves the presidency, you can deal with it, right?
Right.
In the meantime, go ahead and make hay of it and try to tell the public that he's horrible at records when you have the the orange menace there doing
Stealing.
Much worse. Yeah, exactly.
And also, you won't find him turning any intel into foreign countries.
No, exactly. I mean, if anything, to me, this is showing the way you deal with a problem on the government level. That's what you do. An honest person self-reports.
There you go.
I mean, can you imagine if a person who robbed the bank actually walked into the police station and said, hey, I did it? That almost never happens.
Because they had bad intent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know that's apples and oranges in a way, but still, it's sort of that notion that you can't compare. I mean, that with Trump, they're going to make the case that he stalled them, he lied about it. He had lawyers, issue signed papers saying, I don't have any more records. Then he did have more records. It's a totally different thing, right? And so, which, by the way, now Trump, I did put a video up quite a while back showing that we're now moving into the danger zone, because as we go toward later this month and into February, it coalesces on him again. And I would be amazed if, probably more than one thing lands on him. And we've heard about the grand jury in Georgia. That's getting close to doing something. Yes. Then there's this thing, he's sounding all irritated that the E. Jean Carroll thing, they were questioning.
Oh, they're releasing him. all the records. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I would be amazed if he got to the spring without.
And the other thing he's doing is he's calling Jack Smith a terrorist.
Oh yeah, he's desperate. I mean, he's.
But you would think the government would come in and tell him to shut the F up.
Well, this is the problem with the thing with democracy, is that a good democracy has a strong First Amendment, freedom of speech. So then people take advantage. I mean, it's just like the person who knows the vulnerabilities in the system and he keeps exploiting them. And
right.
So I mean, because think about it, if you could do that, you could actually have a government that came in and said, okay, that's it. We're going to put duct tape on your mouth now. Then they would do it to everybody. So that
there's another new book out, and I think I talked about this on one of my shows. You guys be sure to write me. I'm almost positive I said this out loud, that Trump was trying to figure out a way to hit North Korea and blame it on another country.
Yes, that's what I
know that to be true. I said it on one of my shows. I said, oh, he's planning on, because remember he was calling him Rocket Man and everything. He's planning on doing something to hit North Korea and then blame it on a different country. Yeah,
no, I mean, nothing surprises me about the guy. I don't know if you saw, one of the most hilarious things I've seen lately is
what?
The guy from he's now, I think he's married to Nicole Wallace. Schmidt. So he was on Morning Joe, and he has that deadpan, very even keel way of talking. And he said that Kelly, when Kelly was the chief of staff, he said that he was really shocked to discover how, the way he put it was how dumb, lazy, and immoral Trump is. And I'm thinking to myself, you were shocked? We were all seeing it live, like all the time. But it probably is still daunting to be around the person who basically, I think Tillerson got it right. He's an effing moron. He's just like a clown on the loose, And but especially the immoral and lazy part, that's just really disturbing to have it be in a president. And then, the criminal behavior that he's constantly engaging in, constantly. I mean, never stop.
And then he was so furious he lost, that he was doing everything possible to steal it, but he wasn't doing any work for the United States of America.
No. And again, I mean, people get all impatient, and I agree that Garland seems to be like a nice guy in quotes, but he's prosecuted big cases. And one of the things you have to realize about DOJ is they do not like going to court unless they have a slam dunk case. They don't like doing it. And when you go after a guy like this, it's extremely dangerous to lose. So you have to make sure that you anticipate every possible response, every possible counterpoint, or you could lose. And if you lose, he'll use it to say, see, they were chasing me, they were harassing me. It's a really bad idea. So you need to lock it down, basically. So I totally understand why he's doing it. But yeah, I agree with you. It's really sad that, you can permit, I mean, he's basically trying to incite violence against Jack Smith, because he's saying things like, this guy, his wife hates me, and his family hates me, and he called him a thug. You call him a thug. I mean, who's the biggest thug you know of?
Who's the one wearing diapers?
Yeah, I know.
That's a shame, to be so ugly like that. Somebody's going to shut him up.
Well, I think time will shut him up in terms of just his cycles, his karma. It's just the way it is. He's built it this way.
And I knew the moment he said, I don't know if you guys know this, but did you know that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican?
Oh yeah, well that was
said it in all seriousness, and I'm like, oh my God, who the hell is this moron?
Yeah, well, they kind of switched sides though, right? Because the Democrats.
I know, but everybody knew he was a Republican back when Republicans fought to free the slaves. It was the Democrats, but anybody that had history learned that. Yeah. And he's all surprised, like, oh boy, Abraham Lincoln was on our team. Oh my God.
I know. It's pretty remarkable. And yeah, I mean, the whole thing, including the current House GOP crop, but I don't see how that helps them. I really don't. I mean, now what's your sense of this thing with the debt ceiling? Because now they're talking about how they're going to turn it into a fight. And this only happens when they're in charge. They try to bring the government to the brink, which could affect the credit rating.
And I do see some Republicans crossing over to the Dem side, saying, no, we're not going to go through this.
Yeah, well, because see, this is the thing, right? If you look at the mechanics of that House, there are quite a few Republicans that were elected in Biden districts, and these House things go up every 2 years. You cannot screw up or they'll throw you out. So they know that following along the MAGA crazies is not a good plan for them. So yeah, I could definitely see that they'll always be short, when it comes to like, well, we're going to impeach Biden. Well, like for what? Or what the other crazy thing, I didn't know that they could do this. McCarthy said they could run proceedings to to unimpeach Trump, like to clear his charges? I mean,
I don't think they can.
what is that about?
He said they were going to attempt it. They're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's, anyways,
So,
and then.
do you see McCarthy kind of?
No, McCarthy's screwed. McCarthy, if you look at his chart, this is like walking into a snake pit, what he did here. It's a very, very complicated chart, all of 2023. There's way too much Saturn. And as we move into the spring, March, April, May, it is a royal mess. It's the kind of thing where a person with a chart like that can reach a pinnacle and then just crash, right? In fact, it's got echoes of Hitler. Hitler had a very elevated Saturn as well. Those are positions that can lift you to a high place. But if there are problems, and there are plenty of problems with this guy, then it's like you're asking for it. And he just happens to have gone in there when the Saturn is returning. I mean, it's really strong this year. So
I heard Trump calling him saying, "You better thank me publicly."
Yeah, sure.
Because I helped you get in there. And right after that, McCarthy says, "I need to thank President," which he's not, but President Trump. But do you feel, I think my psychic hit is when Trump goes down, a lot of those people are going down.
That's entirely possible. I mean, like a lot of these things, it's I think a little bit, imagine if you're in the Department of Justice, right? And in a way, it's like, who's going to pull the trigger first? At some point, someone pulls the trigger. As soon as you do that, other people pile on. That's just life. It's probably the nature of many jobs. It's how things work. So I totally see that, where, as they start to get more and more convictions, they'll actually get more brave and, going after people like for instance, this Santos character, who.
Oh, you said you looked at his chart.
Yeah. I mean, Santos, the thing is, like many things, many times with these people, it's hard to get a birth time. And then with Santos, you think, like, is it even possible that it's not the right day? Because it feels like this guy, everything about him.
His name's everything.
It's totally made up. He just makes up everything. So according to what is out there, July 22nd, 1988 is the supposed date. And based on that, that would suggest to me, unless I had a time thing to say otherwise, that it's toward the middle of the year when he starts to get more and more pressure, because there are two planets there that get crunched as time passes. But the cool thing that his chart shows, and this I need to do a video to show the analysis because it's fascinating astrology. It's the chart of a person that it's a principle in astrology called out of bounds. He's got all this out of bounds activity, so he goes out of bounds. And with out of bounds, you can make it work really, really well if you are on the honest side of the ledger. Like someone like Einstein, he had out of bounds energy, so he used it to get beyond the current thinking, and he came up with something entirely new and powerful. Santos isn't doing that. Santos is just a crook. He's a crook, and he constantly exceeds bounds the way Trump does, where you get beyond it, break the rules. I don't care. I'll say anything. But eventually that catches up with you as soon as, planets get triggered, right? And so I would say at most a few months, and probably because if I had to guess, it's likely the financial thing that he did, because it sounds like it's a Ponzi scheme or money laundering, or he did some weird thing there to get
money. Yeah.
Quite a few.
That's what'll take him down. But listen, he said only if I get the 142,000 people of New York to say they want me gone. Well, they've already doing but I said, listen, you guys, he's not going to leave even then. He's not going to leave. He's
No. He probably leaves when if the Department of Justice puts pressure on him, and if he's done something, because the lies, you can't prosecute the lies. The lies end up being something that his own party doesn't force him. And at the moment, McCarthy's short votes, so he's not going to do it. Like, remember when they got rid of Steve King because he was getting all racist on them? They got rid of him. But this guy, they would want to, but they can't. But if there is legal pressure, then they'll have no choice, at some point.
Right.
So, but that's where when you see cyclic patterns where things move to a peak, which is happening as we move toward the middle of the year. So
have you? I also see a lot of people on Social Security writing them and saying, "Don't you dare take my Social Security away." I'm
Well-
seeing, they're saying we're talking for the American people. No, you aren't.
Well-
Most of the people's constituents are in areas that really need that Social Security.
Yeah, well, I mean, keep in mind, one of the things that's going on here, in case there's confusion about this, the GOP House, they can't pass any laws. I mean, they can propose things, but none of it matters because the Senate has to approve it, and the Senate is never going to approve it. So they can try whatever they like. Remember when
Thank God we kept the Senate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, remember when back in the Obama years, in the years when the Tea Party came in, the Senate was being run by Harry Reid, and so the Republicans in the House passed the repeal of Obamacare like 100 times. They kept repeating it, going like so to let their base know, look, we're doing something about it, but it meant nothing because the Senate would never take it up, right?
And also, we have a president who would veto any of that.
Who would veto it?
Get
Yeah,
rid
exactly.
of the IRS. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the IRS, what they're saying, and this is again just to bring clarity into this because sometimes it confuses people. The IRS, funding the IRS is so that for the most part, and I know this because I did a stint at the time I was in Canada at the Canadian IRS, and the tax department is always looking for money with people that have money to give you. They're not going to go after some person who hardly makes any money. They're not going to recover anything. So they're looking for the people, the billionaires and the rich people, which Republicans, they're always protecting those people, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're really doing. But in the messaging, they tell you, oh, no, that's not it. We're trying to equalize and make it fair for everybody. It's a lie. It's a total lie. So now I don't know. I'm not familiar with the rules. I don't even know how the House all by itself can stop the flow of money. I thought that had to be worked out through the Senate too, but I guess I don't totally understand that particular procedure. Maybe they can, maybe they
I
can.
know, even if they were to stop the ceiling, could the president step in and do an executive order? We need to look that stuff up.
Yeah, that I don't know. That's a good question because, by that logic, you end up, crippling the government when one of the branches goes berserk, which is what these guys are doing. And the thing is, people are again in a bit of anything from disturbed to a panic about all the investigations. Let them investigate. To investigate, you got to find something, right?
Right. Let them investigate.
And to me, this is Benghazi Part 2. They seize on a couple of things, and off they go.
Did you take a look-see at Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her chart has very similar pressure to McCarthy's. Her 2023 is no good at all. So she's another one that. Basically, the way I would put it is at minimum, she's going to be very frustrated with what's going on, which suggests that even though they think, okay, we got this thing going, what you're saying makes perfect sense to me that a group of them says no. Like something like, remember how Collins and Murkowski kept doing it to Trump? They kept stepping in, and then McCain did a little bit. There was a break on the Senate, so he couldn't get his bills through. And I think that's probably going to happen in the House as well. Or some other thing, but all I can tell you is Marjorie Taylor Greene has a lot of Saturn pressure, and an individual like this with Saturn pressure, believe me, not good.
But she thinks she's queen for a day. She was out there right away, and when we take over, and she was running the ship.
Yeah, well, you can talk, and then Saturn pays you a visit, and Saturn lets you know the real truth of what you're doing and saying. So no, hers is not. Now, interestingly, the one chart that I see less, but I don't have a time for it, but Matt Gaetz, who people are all, he's he's practically demonic. His doesn't look as hampered as hers. Hers is worse, in 2023. But again, I don't have a time.
Hoping he'd go to jail.
I know many people were hoping, and with him it can extend. I mean, sometimes these people who are really corrupt, they just meet their fate later. It takes longer.
Right,
but, like that was the case. I did a video on Jim Jordan. I don't have his time of birth, but there's not a lot there. Like he actually, along with, it's curious, he's got in a way the same problem as Trump or as Biden. Like going into around March 10th, that chart is hurting, but I don't know exactly why. It's just that I think to myself, since it gets smoother after that, he probably, does his investigations and, all that stuff. And there's not enough there, to bring him down. And
Well, what they're doing now is enough that I could see another Democratic Congress in 2024.
I definitely, yeah, no, absolutely. That is the thing that, when we say it would have been better if, the House stayed Democratic, but then people get bored and they make bad decisions in the general
And
election.
then they're working on the abortion issue again, doing their own abortion, with 70% of Americans saying, get your hands off our uterus.
Yeah, no.
And they're doing it again, like the people they always say the people. What people?
Oh, I know.
Oh, Jenny Thomas people?
I know, because it's, and this is the thing that Democrats never like to shoot from the hip and tell the truth. Like if you said, well, which people? I mean, you mean like the 41 million people less that follow you? Those people are the ones that you're talking about? Because you're basically a minority party and you keep telling everyone the American people. But Democrats never message like that because they don't want to be divisive, right? Because if you say that,
you saw what they did to Hillary when she called them. They're actually, what does she call them? Deranged or
deplorable.
Oh, they wouldn't let her live that down.
I know, which, by the way, they're deplorable. I mean,
they're deplorable.
They're deplorable.
She was speaking the truth.
Yeah, exactly. So
have you taken a look at Biden, how his health is doing and stuff? His wife has skin cancer.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, hers is a different chart. His, if there are health issues, they would show up between now and the spring. It gets easier after that. So it's possible. But I don't get that sense with Biden. I mean, the health was more complicated before, like in 2021 and 2022. Do you get a hit on his health?
No, I feel he'll be fine.
No, yeah.
But people are dying left and right. I prophesied at the beginning of this year. I said, you're going to have big names dropping dead.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's, I mean,
a lot of musicians.
Yeah, what's her name? Presley.
Presley died, and the guy from Bachman Turner Overdrive, the drummer, the big guitarist, what was his name?
Jeff Beck,
yeah.
Yeah. Those are charts I haven't looked at, but you always find something pretty striking. Like with Presley's chart, you can see it. It's there. They're only like they're potentials though, because sometimes people get scared if they see an astrologer say, okay, like this is this dangerous area, and then they have something in that area, they can go into a panic.
Poor Lisa, she had her son commit suicide 2 years before. That probably cut her in half. And she had drug issues, and she has that bad heart that her dad died at 42 because of drugs, and he had a bad heart. And her grandma died at 46 of a bad heart.
Yeah.
It runs in the family. My dad had his first heart attack at 40 something. My grandma dropped dead at 57. My grandpa dropped dead at 57. I didn't think I'd live to see 60, but I've had 2 stents in my heart because they found occlusions before I got real sick. But yeah, I got a bad heart too. But my dad died at 80 and he didn't die from a bad heart.
Yeah, but maybe you have a good heart in a different way and it protects you. So
well, yeah, his heart was still bad. His functioning of his heart was bad, but he died of failure to thrive because he got a decubiti, that paraplegics get.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It just wouldn't heal. They call that failure to thrive.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is true that especially if you have a genetic predisposition, it's smart to take care of yourself, because if you abuse the system, then you'll probably bring it on sooner. I mean, there's no 100% guarantee of anything, but just, to me, like I always say to people, think of life like a casino and play the odds, And so obviously, just because you smoke doesn't mean you'll die of lung cancer, but the odds increase. So it's
I have this thing that I do for my members. I have this event where I do a little bit of mediumship and regular questions. And this woman wrote me today. It was wonderful. She said, when she asked about her mother, I said, she looks familiar. apparently I'd read this woman's father before, and the mother was there. They had been married 50 some odd years. And then I'm telling her, and I tell this a lot, but I could tell she had smoked or something. There was smoke. And I said, and she kept emphasizing about being able to breathe. Oh, isn't it wonderful to be able to breathe? But I had so many clients, I was going boom, boom, boom. And she wrote me and said, Linda, everything you said was spot on. It's so weird that you can do that. You just pick up. First thing you get, you don't think about it. Just pick up.
Yeah, that's actually good that you brought it up, that reminder, because many times people ask about like how psychic power, intuition works, and it's a very fast thing, and you follow the thread, and if you
can't be afraid of it.
Yeah, just wherever it takes you, which like sometimes what'll happen to me is, like, I'll give you an example. Today, I was watching this British soccer game a little bit for a few minutes. Then we went shopping, and when I left, it was 1-1. And on the way back, I thought, I wonder how that game turned out. And I immediately got a flash that the visiting team won. And sure enough, I got the word, and
there
then they
you
won.
Go.
But if I start churning it, then I lose it.
Then you lose it. That's like when you asked me who was going to win the soccer game.
Yeah, that was.
And I just said Brazil. You said, "Oh, that's good." I didn't know.
No, you said
what did I say?
Argentina.
Argentina. Sorry.
Yeah, but no, that was
Argentina, Brazil, same thing. But anyway, Argentina, and you were happy. I didn't do it to make you happy.
Yeah,
I just said the first thing that hit me.
I know,
and then, you still think, well, could I be right? The thing I can't do is when I've got skin in the game. I can't read on like my 49ers or Giants.
The 49ers, yeah. 49. Well, look, here, your team they're 10-point favorites. They had a much better season than the Seahawks. The problem is, though, in the NFL, what I noticed is that, yeah, because teams are pretty equal, and there isn't this big, even though the 49ers are definitely a better team than the Seahawks this year, there's no question. And yet, remember the years when the Kansas City Chiefs, much better team than everyone, and they lost. They just couldn't. They couldn't get. Last year, wasn't it the Bengals, or there was a team that was pretty ordinary, and they got all the way to.
Was that the one where the quarterback didn't realize his time was gone and it timed out and the game was over and he was all upset?
I don't know. You mean recently or last year?
Last year, I think, or maybe 2 years. I just remember it was the Kansas City, and he was rushing to put the ball down or do something, and then the referees blew and the game was over, and he was like, "What?" No,
I think that was Buffalo, or it might have been. I know what you mean, though. There was this amazing game where he totally mistimed it, and the clock ran out. But
it's like you want to say, "You idiot!" Then you look at the clock.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how with sports in America, if you look at the way they set it up, the NFL is like a communist organization, because they try to make everybody equal, and say, in contrast to professional soccer, the same teams are always dominating because they have all the money. But in the NFL, they spread it around. And then, then you get things like what happened here in Seattle. We had to sell Russell Wilson, or like get rid of him because he was too expensive. And so then immediately people said, "Oh, this is going to be horrible." But the new guy is done even better, just not well enough to match, some of the top teams. But you never know, because with the NFL, it's like flipping a coin in a way. Anybody has a chance.
Yeah. And then new teams start, and they're a little short, and then they work themselves into being fantastic.
Yeah, true.
Exactly. The only reason, I'm going to tell you something, and I love Seattle, and I love all my friends from Seattle. But the thing that broke my heart the most was when we played Seattle before in the playoffs. And Seattle would not allow any 49er fans to buy tickets for the playoffs.
Is that true?
And they said, it was true. And they said, because we can. We're the one in charge. It's happening at our place. Now, this game, we could have done it to them and said, although right now, they're selling tickets at $70 because no one's coming because of the rain. But we could have said, Seattle fans, you don't have a right to come. But I remember thinking they need to make a rule on that, because that is so unfair.
It's true.
Why would they do that? And to me, it was so mean. I never got over it. I've never liked Seattle since, the team.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And one of the things about Seattle is that people here, by and large, are easygoing often
Yes.
and so forth. But the thing is, not at the stadium. Like the Seattle fans are the worst in the league.
I heard because my nephew went to the
man.
game and he said to his mom, those were the most ugly, vicious people I have ever been. And he's gone to a lot of games everywhere.
Yeah, they try to scream so loud that the quarterback can't hear what's going on. They always do that, and teams that visit here know it. And yeah, it's amazing to see because
but they're vicious about the other teams, about other fans. You have to be very careful about wearing your team stuff.
By the way, what do you get for that guy? Do you get any hits on that poor guy that nearly lost his life?
I see him thriving, but I don't see him playing again.
Well, actually, you know what? If he doesn't play again, it might be better for him because.
And the team will have to pay him off because he got hit on it's like workman's comp, but he'll get a nice fat exiting, and he'll make a lot of money for benefits and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, he probably wants to.
But he was down with the team, Buffalo. He was with them down on the field.
Yeah. No, it's just it's a scary thing.
But I almost feel like if something, God forbid, happened and he got hit in the chest again, it might not be reversible next time.
Yeah.
I just see doctors saying no, and the team won't put him on if the doctors say no. He may say, "Oh, I feel perfectly well." I do see eventually them putting a pacemaker in him too.
Yeah.
It's really messed him up. There's a lot of people I've read, women that have lost their sons on rugby. And what's that game that you got sort of a basket looking thing?
Lacrosse.
Lacrosse.
Yeah.
There's one woman I read, her son died of a lacrosse thing, hitting him right exactly in the chest, just dropped dead.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's risk in almost all sports, but football will be right up there at the very top. I mean, we're like watching, I remember my father many years ago, when he first saw, because he was familiar with soccer, but he saw an American football game and he said, "I can't believe this. These people are savages."
Isn't it something? And my team back in the old days was the Oakland Raiders.
Oh, and they were tough. Yeah. Kenny Stabler, is that your quarterback?
Yeah, of course. Kenny Stabler, Fred Biletnikoff. Oh my God, that was it. John Madden. The first Super Bowl I ever went to was the Oakland Raiders versus Minnesota Vikings, and we won down at the Rose Bowl. Yeah, but they were getting in trouble all the time. Thanks to the Oakland Raiders, a lot of rules came in because they were deliberately hurting people.
Yeah, no, they were tough. Yeah, I remember that team. They were intimidating, with their black uniforms and their skull and bones thing. And yeah, for sure. But I mean,
and they all looked old to me. They looked like old men. My ex-boyfriend begged me to get autographs from them, and I was like, "What?" I went to the Oakland airport, and they had me walk up to the team, and that was when Madden was still flying. And I went up, and he was very kind to me. I asked him for his autograph, and then Phil Filippiano dropped a big old can of Coors beer out of his jacket. And I saw all these women. I thought, who are these hookers? Well, they were the wives. Wives of the Oakland Raiders. But this tells you, this dates me because this was back in the early 70s.
That's
so, then I even went down on the field at a game, pushed by my boyfriend to get Joe Namath's autograph, who was playing the Raiders. I went right up to him, down on the field, not with the fence there, but I said, "Mr. Namath, may I have?" Of course, back in them days, I used to have the El Plunjo,
So he would, I know.
Excuse me, Mr. Namath, can I get your autograph? But he signed it. So he got all those autographs I got. That X has it from the 70s.
Do they don't allow that anymore, though, right?
I don't think they do. I couldn't believe I went right down there and asked for it. Send me, I'll do it. Yeah,
that's really interesting that there was more access, but then it kind of got out of control
But thanks to the Raiders, they have now, there's so many rules they started to prevent people from hurting. People would try to hurt your quarterback.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is better when you look at most sports, soccer, football, they're more controlled and they've reduced the injury possibilities, but not entirely. I mean, football is, because if you think about it, they don't even have a rule in football to eject you instantaneously when you've done a really harsh hit. And if you want to change the nature of the game, you hit their best player really hard. So that, if you can hit the quarterback, I remember seeing a Super Bowl where the quarterback was hit so hard, you could see that he was groggy in the next play. He was kind of looking around. And of course, that's to your advantage. Maybe you'll throw an interception. It's
right.
So you're encouraging harshness and injury. And so it can happen. No question.
I got to tell you a story, if you don't mind. Talk about being psycho. Back when I was dating this guy, he loved football. And everybody, the neighbors and everybody came over to his house for the Super Bowl party. And he invited me to come. I was thrilled. And so all the guys were in the living room and they were taking bets for the score, $1 or something, And I said, can I bet too? And they're like, yeah, we'll take your money. And so I bet, and off the top of my head, I gave a score. Do you know I got that score dead on and I won all the money?
Wow, good for you.
And he was even looking at me like, what the? I won all the money.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, you got the intuition and like, how are they going to predict the score? Like, how does anyone?
And I had no skin in the game. I didn't care.
Right. Yeah.
When I really fell in love with football was Joe Namath with the 49ers. My brother-in-law was a season ticket holder and they loved the 49ers.
You mean Montana?
Montana. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because Namath was he was for the Jets.
Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Because I tolerated football up until I never really went out of my way to watch a game. I used to like it at Thanksgiving and stuff. But then with my brother-in-law, with their love for Joe Montana, and I started to watch the game and the spectacular throws and that guy he used to, between Rice and between another guy who's now dead, he was really good looking. It was like, whoa, I remember just being in awe. And I thought, my God. So that's when I fell in love with
he was really good. He was really good. And what popped into my mind when you said that is that in the US chart, the house of sports is connected to Mars and Gemini is the hands. Because in the US, you notice that most sports are hand sports: baseball, basketball, football. Even though football, you think you're kicking. Well, they kick some, but mostly it's skill with hands. Whereas most of the world is more fond of soccer, which is a foot sport. So it's curious that particular planet rules, and
isn't that something? Do you think it's a little bit look at the United Kingdom and stuff. I mean, back in the Roman days, there was some heavy duty sports. Is that where we get that energy from?
Yeah, I don't. Well, you mean like why the U.S. Football in the U.S.? I think there is I think it's the gun-toting, a cowboy mentality. It's very rough and coarse, and like a pioneer that goes into the this wild area that they're going to conquer. Yeah, it has some of that.
Because when you look at our stadiums, that's what the stadiums were like in Rome and Greece and everything. Everybody gathered together to watch the bloody fight to the end.
Although that was worse, because there's another thing too, that if you compare, people are always talking about empires and how the U.S. is an empire. The U.S. as an empire is much, much kinder than the Romans were. God help you if you got on the wrong side of the Romans, because they didn't take prisoners. If they didn't crucify you, they would come and kill your family, whatever. They didn't take any opposition. And the U.S. is constantly trying to.
Well, look at how everybody prayed and was so. I think that mass prayer helped that football player that had the heart attack.
Yeah.
But look how everybody was all like, whoa, everybody was. Whenever a real football player gets really hurt, people care about it, unlike Rome would have done.
Yeah, that's true. And by the way, that's a great thing to bring up, because it can't be underestimated that whether in person's personal life or the idea of sending energy to people in any way, shape, or form through prayer is really helpful. Which, by the way, if you're not liked by many people because you get on their nerves and so forth, then you're getting reverse prayer because they're not wishing you well. So, both of those work. Hey, what do you see for what about the Ukrainian conflict? What's your sense of that?
I know they're going to win. I know Putin's probably going to be exited or die or something come March, April.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. No, that actually the fit there is that the switch in the spring takes a lot of the pressure off Zelensky, and it's not a good switch for Putin. Yeah, it's
No.
that simple. No, so
I'm not saying he's going to die. I'm just saying something's going to happen, and they're going to win. I read their twits, from Twitter all the time. Oh my God, these are such beautiful people. They fight like hell.
Yeah, and
women too. The women are in there fighting.
No, well, I mean, the thing is that invading a country, even for a great power, is extremely complicated. So this just exposed how they're not an empire. I mean, they're a pretend, empire, because they can't even get organized properly. But even if they were, it is really hard to go into a, boots on the ground and conquer people, because they don't like it. They live there. So they have a lot of incentive to fight.
And, I really feel really good for them. I got to tell you, initially I was scared to death because I saw the deaths that were going to happen. There's a lot of deaths, a lot of torture and terrible things the Russians have done. Just awful. But a lot of the Russians are turning around and leaving. They don't want nothing to do with it, even though they're going to go through wrath through Russia. Russia doesn't take kindly to that.
Yeah. No,
but we're training them. America is training them. We're taking them and sending them back in 2 weeks. The UK has just announced they're sending them more tanks. And so, we're giving them and whatever they get, they fight to the finish.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, even Germany, they were trying to stay more neutral, and they're also sending equipment. So pretty much NATO is
well, that's what upsets me about Congress. We're not going to give any more money to the Ukraine. Really? So you're saying to Putin, hey, dude, do what you want, because don't worry, they won't get any money from us. That's basically because our fight with Ukraine is the fight for all.
100%. I know. It's just that for some people, they don't see it that way, but to me, it makes perfect sense. 100%. Perfect sense. But again, see, this is a topic where if you grab onto it the way the House GOP wants to, you get on the wrong side of the numbers. It's just basic politics. Don't go on the wrong side of issues. If you're promoting this abortion thing, why are you doing that when 70% are against you? What's the point of that? You're going to create.
They went running with the issues that Americans are not even caring about.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, and part of what goes on with these turbulent periods is that there's a way in which you could argue that you got to really see the problem, get immersed in it, get almost pushed around by it in order to get rid of it. So Trumpism is like a disease. You've got to put it out, but in a way, it's good to see people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and these guys doing their thing, because it's nuts. It makes no sense. It's,
Well, I hate to say this, but that's the last time, because I was reading on it and it kept saying no on McCarthy. No.
Well,
at the very last time, I went ahead and picked up the pendulum and I said, wow, is he going to win the 15th time? And they said yes. I said, oh my God. I went to panic. And then my guide said, it's almost like when Putin invaded Ukraine, this is the beginning of the end for Putin. I almost felt like this is the beginning of the end for these crazies, because they will show their ass so much, nobody will want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, no.
Entertainment purposes only.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Entertainment purposes only, but I'm with you on that pretty much 100%. Certainly on McCarthy. And McCarthy's got a big problem. That's all I can say. It's totally clear to me. Like, the thing with astrology is people that you see acting in weak and especially corrupt ways, they do very poorly with Saturn. Very poorly.
Look at my Carrie Lake fuzzy lens there for a second.
Yeah.
So listen, I want to tell you something real quick before you go. I can't believe an hour has already passed. Today on the news, they were talking about they're getting so many sightings in the USA, and I'm sure it's happening in Russia, etc., of UFOs over nuclear sites, that they're actually having the government get yet again another piece of their government to investigate all these sightings, which are mostly at nuclear sites. And what did those entities that talk to me that are from the realm, and they say that they're not here to destroy us, or they're here to make sure we don't blow ourselves up.
Well, that's
and I thought, because I don't care if Kim Jong-un, who I don't even think is still alive, I think someone's representing him, or if it's Putin, I almost feel anybody try to do a nuke, it would backfire.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And by the way, that's comforting to hear, because, you know,
but they said this is, if this is alien, this is serious. No, it's not serious. Be grateful that they're looking out for us.
Yeah, no, totally.
There was a thing, a show that talked about alien encounters during the Vietnam War, and they were talking about gun shooting at UFOs, and that all those bullets that they shot up at these UFOs turned around and shot them back with the same bullets.
Wow, that's powerful.
And then some boat had shot some missiles, and somehow or the other, there was a boat blown up, and when they found what blew them up, it was from that ship that had sent missiles. It was one of their own missiles. That's when the government told the fighter pilots and everybody, do not shoot or UFOs anymore.
Yeah, well,
if you're aggressive, they'll turn around and be aggressive to you.
Well, I mean, like if you have the technology to
oh yeah,
it would be you're not going to have extraterrestrials here with technology inferior to what we have. There's no way. There's not possible, in my opinion.
If they can be up in the sky like that, you don't mess with them.
There's no way. Yeah.
But there's no overtaking. I could be wrong, but the energy that I get, or the conversation I've had from this energy form, that's definitely an alien. He told me he was. That it was always filled with compassion and love. And it was almost that same thing you get. Sometimes I think people who think they see angels is actually aliens. But they're all for well-being of man.
Oh, that's good.
So they're not here to destroy us. They just want to make sure we don't destroy ourselves. And he even said way back then, he said, you're going to see more sightings of us because we're coming around to protect you. So,
well, that's good. That's good, because I mean, that would, imagine if it was the other way around, like some of those shows they used to do where
we would be done already, because as advanced as they are. But did you hear on that book from Schmidt? By the way, I need to buy that and listen to it. That he said that, or did I already talk about this to you? That he said that Trump wanted to shoot North Korea and blame it on another country.
Yeah, you said that earlier.
I did.
No. Wait, by the way, I know that there was some other thing. There was at one point Trump came out somewhere in a report that he wanted to do the same thing to Mexico. He wanted to shoot missiles at some facility or something, and then say that someone else had done it. So I mean, Trump is a genius. He's a total genius.
I remember reading on him and talking about a lowlife, that he would actually do that. Yeah. That he would actually blow something up and say, "Oh, it wasn't us."
Right. Like that's going to work. Sure.
Just as long as he has proper diapers on, we're okay.
Exactly.
So.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you. Are you going to watch the game?
I am. Yeah, I'll be watching the game. As I said, I don't expect them to win, but I'll watch. And
right. I can't get excited. I just have to go with the flow.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, if the 49ers win, I won't be that upset. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Otherwise, I'd ream it in you, but yeah. Okay.
All right.